In this video, I'm going to show you some of the basics of Adobe Premiere Pro. Basically, starting off with importing video files. So to do this, if we go over to our project browser window, first things first, you're going to want to create a new bin. A bin is basically a folder, and this helps you keep your project neat and tidy, and also helps you organise all your files, which is always good practice. So to do this, if we just right click inside the project window and you can select new bin. If we name this first one footage, you've then created a folder to store your footage. There is a couple of different ways to set up bins. You also have a little new bin tab here which you can click to create a new bin. Let's name this one audio. And you can also, if you go to File, you can then select New and Bin. So there's multiple ways for you to create new bins. Let's call this one Images. You might need or want quite a few different bins. You can also have bins inside other bins. So for example, footage. If you've done quite a big shoot and you've got multiple locations, or if you say you filmed at night and also at day, you might want to organise your footage into day footage, night footage, or based on different locations that you filmed at, or different scenes. Completely up to you and personal preference how you organise your clips. But once you've set up your bins, you can then import your footage. So to do that, if we just, so I want the footage to go into my footage folder, I'll select the footage folder and then I'll right click and I will select import. So right click and click import. There is a couple of ways to import. You can also go to file import as well, and you can also drag and drop your footage into your project window. You then want to navigate to your P drive. So again, up here, you can then go down to your Mac and select that, and then navigate to your P drive. Which mine is my name currently, but would be your student number. You then go to the unit where you had your folder structure saved and you'd navigate through there. Mine is currently on desktop, so I'll go through to that. I'll select my test project that I've created. I'll then go to Premiere and then I'll go to footage. So yours would still be very much like this. You'd have your folder structure, you go to Premiere, you go to footage where you dragged and drop your footage from your SD card into that footage folder. I'm going to select a couple of clips that I've used from an old project that I filmed on using the Nikon D3200. I'll then click Import, and you'll then notice by clicking the triangle to expand the folder, you'll then see your clips. It is good practice to name your clips, so you can do this either in Premiere or before you import your video clips into Premiere. It will just help you know what clips are without you having to view them, so you can basically speed up the editing process, making it quicker to do your edits because you'll know exactly what everything is. So that's how you import your footage. If you double click a clip, if you double click the icon even, it'll open up in your source monitor, aka your viewer window here. You can then scrub through these clips, you can play them, and you can select parts that you want to drag down onto the timeline to edit. So to do this, you can press play.
I'll have a chat to you first. Any questions you've got?
You can then you can press play by pressing the button, or you can press the space bar. You can also scrub through the footage by dragging this little blue playhead. This is called a playhead, and so is this. Basically, it allows you to scrub through your footage and also go to specific parts of footage that you want to go to. It's very handy for quickly looking through clips to find the ideal location that you want. This viewer window is also perfect for marking things in and out. For example, if I wanted this clip, I only wanted certain parts of it, I can mark them in and mark them out and just take that part of the clip and drag it onto the timeline. So, for example, if I just wanted Tom's intro of this video, I know that I want it from the start, so I can mark it in by selecting this button, or I can press I on the keyboard and it will mark it in. I then could scroll through until Tom is done and walks off the screen. I'm just doing this rushed. You would more than likely play it to watch it. You can also use the arrow keys on your keyboard to scroll through the video clip. So I know there is Tom as his left. So I can then mark it out. Again, you can click the button to mark it out, or you can press O on your keyboard. Once you've selected that part of the video clip that you want, you can then drag this down to your timeline. You've then, on your timeline, now got just that part of the video clip that you selected. This can speed up the video editing process. It basically cuts out and declutters your timeline. So for example, if I just drag the whole clip onto the timeline, that's just done the bit that I've selected again. Let's undo that. Let's drag a new one over. It drags the whole clip on. You might not want that whole clip, so it's worth just viewing it in your source monitor here, marking it in and marking it out on specific parts of the clip that you want, and then dragging and dropping them in. You can also go back to this clip and select other parts that you want to use by finding them, again marking them in. As you can see, it completely undoes what you've done and the other marking and markup you've previously done, and then mark that out. You can then drag that down onto the timeline. Dragging it down is pretty simple. If you just left click, you'll then get a little hand as soon as you start to move the mouse, allowing you to then drag and drop it. You'll also notice that it automatically snaps to your other clip, basically meaning there isn't a gap there. But we can get rid of that just by selecting it and clicking delete on your keyboard. That'll delete that clip off your timeline. So that's how you've done a quick little edit up in your source monitor there, and you've now got two clips down on your timeline. As you can see, as I scrub through the clips, they come up in your program monitor here, aka your canvas. You can also scrub through using your playhead here in your program monitor too, and you can click play here as well to play it, and also spacebar on your keyboard will play it too. So to show you some of the basic tools that you'll need to use, you have the selection tool here, and this is your main one for moving clips around and for selecting things. So that's your main kind of mouse selection tool. The shortcut to that is V on the keyboard. You will learn these shortcuts pretty quickly because you'll generally be jumping through while you're editing quite quickly. The other second main tool is your razor tool, which is shortcut C on the keyboard. And as you can see, that's automatically changed my mouse pointer to a razor blade. It currently has a red line going through it, basically meaning I can't currently cut anything. That's because I'm not hovering over any clips. As soon as I go over to a clip, I can then cut. As you can see, there's a line there showing you where it will cut your video and audio. Obviously, you wouldn't just blindly cut. You would move your playhead to the exact place that you want to cut your video. You'd maybe press play to make sure you get it to the right place, and then pause it at the exact place before you cut. You can then click and it will cut. If I move the playhead out of the way, you'll see I've created a cut. You might also want to zoom in to help you be able to see this and where you're cutting a bit more precisely. To do that, there's a couple of ways you can zoom in. If I just select the selection tool, V on the keyboard, again, you can select it there if you want to. And the best way and the quickest way I find to zoom is you've got your little scroll bar here. If you grab the lighter grey square at the end of it, you can then drag it in and out to zoom left and right. You can see that my mouse actually moves away from it, don't worry, it's just the way it works. But yeah, I find this the quickest way to zoom in and out on the timeline. So I can zoom right in to go all the way down to a single frame. You can then use your arrow keys to go left and right frame by frame. You do this to get a really precise cut. I always do it, it's the best way to get a precise cut, to know exactly where you're cutting, to make sure you don't get any gaps. So for example, if I zoom as far in as possible and I cut, I've then created a cut, I know exactly where that is. But then if I zoom out, if I'm trying to search along, trying to find that exact cut, it can be quite hard to find exactly where it is. So if I then zoom back in, thinking I've got it, I'm actually quite a few frames out. So it's worth zooming in and zooming out just to make sure you're being precise with your edits. That'll just be a lot more helpful. Once you've made an edit like this, I've made two cuts. If you want to delete that part of the clip, if you select V on your keyboard, which is your selection tool, You can then select that clip just by clicking on it, and then you can get rid of it by pressing delete on your keyboard. It'll then delete. This does, however, leave a gap, but that's quickly resolved by selecting the gap. If you want to fill the gap with another clip, that's fine. You can select one clip, shunt it along, you can drag a new one in there, or you can just select that gap and click delete, and it will basically shunt this clip and any others you have along there up, so it connects to the one before. And very handy. There is some other tools for you to take a look at, which you can do in your own time, just while you have some fun fiddling around, just getting to grips with editing in Premiere. You'll see what they do. Don't worry, you can always undo things, which is Command Z on a Mac, or Control Z will undo things. Don't worry, this is non-destructive editing. If you've cut a clip so badly that you were like, I can't undo it anymore, don't worry, just go back to your project window in the browser, find that clip again, and just re-drag down the marked in clip that you had. Don't worry, you can't destroy it. Even if you delete footage out of here, it'll still be on your computer. The only way you'll lose footage is if you physically delete it from that folder, that footage folder on your computer. One other way to zoom in is obviously by using the zoom tool or pressing the Z key on your keyboard. It'll automatically go to plus in the magnifying glass, which means you can zoom in. If you hold Alt on your keyboard, you'll then notice it goes to the minus. You can then zoom out. So zoom in or zoom out. I prefer just to drag the scroller bar as a quicker way, rather than having to change the tool that you're using, but that's just personal preference. A second ago, I just had an autosave, so that's where setting your scratch discs come in handy. I know if this crashes now, because I haven't saved it, there'll be an autosave of this project in that autosave folder we created within the scratch discs. So that's a couple of the basics. Just before I go, I'll show you how to save your project. So to save it, you go to File, Save, and that will save your project. Obviously, that will have saved it wherever you set the location where you chose to save your project in the first place. It will have just overwritten that and just saved it. You can also go Command S as a shortcut on your keyboard to save, or Control S if you're on a PC. One final thing, which I will go into more detail in another video, is the effects. The effects tab are here. To add effects, if I just go to a random video effect, for example, blur or sharpen, I'll just choose the blur. To add an effect, all you need to do is left click and drag it onto the clip you want to add the effect. You'll see the mouse is now a hand with a little plus. You can then release it. The effects little icon has now turned purple on this clip, basically meaning you have added an effect to that clip. You'll also notice that it is unrendered, as the bar above your clip has gone red, and that basically means the clip is unrendered. So hovering over, you go, well, it hasn't blurred it. What you need to do is you double click it, and up in your source window here, your viewer, you can click effects controls. You can then adjust the effects of this clip here. So blurriness, if I just drag that up, you'll then notice live in your program monitor, aka your canvas, it started to adjust it. So you'd adjust that effect to your preference. There is loads of effects that are worth having fun playing around with. Again, I can show you some more in some other videos if you'd like. But for now, that is your basics, and that's all you need to know to get you started. So you can now crack on with your project and just have fun editing.